and this time I've got a video on the Caribena Versicolor. We're going to have a look at setting up an enclosure for a sling. This video will predominantly be for slings. I've got a little sheet here to help me kind of go through it all with you. There will be a little bit on the care, but predominantly I want to show you how to set up a nice enclosure for you. Okay, so the first thing you want to take note of is the temperature that it requires. So the sling needs to have 78 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. That would be basically about 24 to 27 degrees in Celsius. And we're looking at day temperatures for that. If you want a night temperature, it's going to be somewhere like 20, 24, if you want to be that specific. The next thing I want to point out is the humidity and the moisture. Now, this has been a long discussion in the sort of care sheets online for the Caribena Versicolor, and a lot of the points that come up would be that, or at least it used to be, it's gotten a lot better now, but they used to say that you know, high humidity was very important, and quite often that would end up in a few fatalities because it was too humid and there wasn't enough ventilation. So a good enclosure, if you want, is to have plenty of cross ventilation and a little top ventilation as well, and this really helps the air circulate better. If it's too hot and stuffy in there, the spider's going to hate it basically, and it will not go too well for you. So make sure whenever you've got an enclosure, this one's good, I'll pop a link in the description, but when you get an enclosure, make sure it has cross ventilation. There are ways you can make your own cross ventilation, specifically in acrylic tanks or enclosures like this one, if it doesn't exist already. But that's for another day. Anyway, so feeding wise, you want to feed every 2 to 3 days. That's typical with any slings anyway. You want to be a little bit selective with what you feed, and I would recommend probably, I don't know, if you can get fruit flies if they're really small slings. Fruit flies are good. If they're a little bit bigger, then perhaps some you could take, I don't know, a mealworm and chop it down, give them a little piece. Especially at that young age, they're more scavenging than they are hunting, so that's a good way to do it. You know, they're opportunists, they'll take food if you leave it there for them. And then the last thing I really wanted to touch on was just molting, something to be aware of. So the growth speed on these is pretty alright, to be honest. They can molt sort of every couple of months if the conditions are kept right. And they sort of reach maturity fairly fast from what I've read. They're a medium-sized tarantula. The females can live up to 12 years and the males can live 2 to 3 years, so actually not that long. They're quite a short-lived species on the scale of things anyway. I mean, 12 years is quite a while, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, this video is more for the enclosure setup, so I'm going to get into it now. We're going to set this bad boy up and yeah, let's get on with it. So something you want to look for first would probably be this lovely stuff here. If the glare is too strong, there you go, it might be a bit better. So it's called Spider Life, and the good thing about this is it does retain quite a bit of moisture, which is what you want. You know, you don't want too much, but that's tackled with the cross ventilation. This is good. It's not like your cocoa fiber stuff. It's quite different. It's almost peaty like soil. So it's good stuff. I'd recommend it for these. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I've got my enclosure, and I'm going to take some of the Spider Life soil and pop that in the bottom here. I will make a mess, but quite frankly, I don't care. I'll clean it later. So we've done that, and I've got a nice amount there. It doesn't need too much because it is an arboreal species. I'm going to take some of this moss that I got the other day. If you haven't seen my other video where I got some moss, you know, click the link in the bottom there. I'll leave it down. I'm going to pop this in there as well, and what that's going to do is help retain a bit more moisture. I really regret touching this now because that was in my Versicolor Caribena's enclosure. I'm probably going to be itchy as hell. But anyway, we get the mister and we're going to give it a good pump. And give it a good spray. And we're just going to make sure that we spray the edges down and it's all going to tuck in nicely, so there's a good bit of moisture in there. Don't mind making a mess, I don't care, quite frankly. So that's that done. I'm then going to take a little bit of leaf litter just for decoration. Lovely, lovely. And then the next thing I want to do is I've actually grown some spider plants. I'm going to take a little sprig out, if I can. Just lift that gently out. Nice and healthy. And this is going to be nice and decorative as well as provide maybe a couple of anchoring points. We'll find out, I suppose, in time. Make sure that you grow these in safe soil if you do. You don't want to use anything with like pesticides and stuff, because that will, well, pesticides do a certain job, right? They're going to kill your tarantula. So you pop that in there. That's going to probably grow out of control and go everywhere in no time, but I don't mind. I'm sure it will be fine. And what we're going for really is a nice natural look. I try and avoid using fake plants where I can. I don't like them very much. So far we have the plant in the enclosure with some moss on the bottom. I've thrown a couple of leaves in there. A couple of leaves. And they're going to go in like that. But we want to make sure that this species has plenty of anchoring points. I kind of touched on it earlier. So I'm going to go and dig some out of my beetle enclosure because I've got some kicking around. And we'll set those in. So give me just a second. So here we go. I've got a few. They're probably going to be a little bit too big, so I might have to break them down a bit. Definitely a bit too big. Not to worry, we can snap the ends off. We'll set those in. Yep, too big. Any sharp ends, it's good just to put those in the substrate first. Not that I'm too concerned of anything bad happening, but I like to take precautions if it's no hassle to do so. Why not, eh? Pop those in nicely. And again, with any items that you use for enclosure, make sure that they're safe. We don't want you to go foraging and find some sticks and then for them to carry any pesticides or anything like that, and that could harm your tarantula. It'd be tragic, right? So this is coming along quite nicely. Have the sticks in there, we've got the greenery, very nice. You don't want to be too crammed in there. Now typically the Caribena Versicolor will molt in, it's kind of, I'm going to call it a hammock, right? So it makes a little bed, normally on the side of the enclosure or against some cork bark or whatever you have, and it will molt inside there. So you don't need to really worry too much, from experience anyway, about making sure there's a molting area on the bottom or anything like that. I find they molt quite well inside the hammock. Perhaps when they get a bit older they will require a bit more space to molt, so it would obviously look at a different sort of care guide. But this is for slings and I think this works. So this enclosure was no good. It was a temporary home though, and the reason it was no good, it didn't have any cross ventilation. So we're going to try and coax this little one out and get her into the new enclosure. And I will just do that by very gently guiding. We don't want an attack to happen on these tongs. So, just gently. Whew, and you see how fast we are. So I'm going to try and coax this little one over to its new enclosure now, and they're very fast, so I'm quite skeptical of how this is going to go, but we shall see. Just a little gentle persuasion. I think we're going to be okay. No, go the other way, please. I love the little feet. That's it. That's gone very well for me. Such a cool little species. And there we have it, another enclosure done. This little one is going to be happy in there now. We've got the proper ventilation, the proper care in place. She's going to be really good. I'm saying she, don't know. We'll find out. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Always a pleasure. If you like this kind of content, let me know in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It'd be much appreciated. And yeah, see you again soon. Bye.